Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I just want to remind everyone of our mission statement. ESC County Schools empower all students to become productive, responsible citizens of an ever-changing global society. From what I've been told, there's no changes or additions to the agenda. So if we want to have a motion to approve the agenda. Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we will move on to the consent items. John?
Okay. Any questions on the minutes?
Nope.
Thought the finance report looked good. All of our balances are up over last year at this time. And this all of them by activity funds from 2 years ago. So fairly comfortable there. One thing that's going to be coming up, I thought I'd just bring it up here, is summer projects. And a lot of those are out of the capital projects funds. A year ago, we talked about this parking lot out here, doing half of it. And then we kind of put that off and said we'd maybe wait a year and consider doing the whole thing. So one thing that we've been talking about in the office is getting that bid process started to at least see where we're going to be price-wise, so we figure out if we want to do that or not.
I think it's important that we get that started.
And I just didn't want to start putting that information out there without the five of you. There's no...
Couple of reasons. It's not going to get any cheaper to do it. So the more we wait, it's going to cost us more. But another reason is we've got the money to do it. We're thinking it's going to be less than $300,000. So I think we should start that process.
That was the one note that Barb and I had there. And we know of a handful of other things that are going to be on that summer project list. I know we've all talked about the bus radios and that tower situation and some other things, but the big one, of course, is that. So we'll keep rolling with that deal then. So, on the bills, the open enrollment and tuition portion of the general fund was about $123,000 of our $212,000, and that's not unusual for January and June to see those. So we did send out our own bills for special ed and for open enrollment, and around 160 or 70,000, I believe, for the first semester that we sent out. So we're seeing those come back in on the other side. So
that's a good thing to know, because
Yeah.
a lot of times people see the bills that we pay, but they don't ever see the bills that we send out.
On the bills, Amazon was fairly large, but we bought a couple projectors and some hard drives and equipment to fix our laptops, etc. Doing a lot of those repairs in the house, or buying the parts. Had a large reimbursement to Marie Booth. We'd asked her to take some classes, and we do that occasionally with some of our staff. We either pay the school or reimburse the staff member. In this case, it was a reimbursement.
Sometimes that comes up because in changes in DE licensure requirements. We have one that happened last year for us with special ed licensure. We've asked the teacher who can't actually get into any of the classes, but when she does, we'll be paying for that because we have to have someone in our district with that license, and she was kind enough to say she'd take the course with me. So in that case, we pay for it. And it's usually reasonable expense because they offer it in some way through online or community college or something. So the rate is the end of what she needed to change the licensure.
For what class was that, Mark?
This would be for physics.
Card member service was better this month. It was only $20, and that was some classroom supplies for FCS and choir. So that was good. City of Sac City, that was 2 months. That's why that looks a little out of skew, the $13,000. Danco, you don't see that very often. That's safety equipment for football. We usually do $4,000 to $6,000 a year in safety equipment. They were running some promos, and we got 48 helmets and 12 sets of shoulder pads done for that amount of money. So went ahead and took advantage of that. We'll probably do less next year then.
Those are things you have to replace every so often, right, John?
Yeah, that's actually 27 reconditioned helmets and 21 new ones on trade-in and 12 new shoulder pads. And it's a recurring expense for us, but like I said, that's a little more than normal. Iowa Central for the auto class. Of that 14,000, there was about 600 or 700 that was Our bus driver's taking that training. The rest was the instructor for auto class. That's, I believe, the only instructor that we don't have on salary, that Iowa Central pays, and then we reimburse them. And that's a half a day, and it's two different, I'm looking at you guys because you know it's two different classes.
Right, Auto Tech
And I
1, Auto
think
Tech 2.
The upper level class isn't as large. It's got 3 or 4 kids, and the lower level has 10 or so. So that's a good sign for that program.
And that's often a cycle we sort of go through, I think, where we'll have steady numbers, and we might get into a time where a grade level of kids only has a kind of the short end of things, but then we continue the class because the next year we're back to 10 kids.
That's Worcester, I did not highlight that, but
No, I didn't
they
know
do our
what it
snow
was.
removal at the SAC campuses, and it's very, very reasonable. I don't think we could do it. We're getting that big end loader for $70 an hour, and the other equipment for $60. So. Next page, Mason City tuition. That's a student that was in a residential care center. Then we're responsible for education and transportation on that part. And we don't have anybody up there right now. This is cleaning up a bill from the second semester last year. So, the new opportunity mentoring, I think this is the 5th or 6th year that we've used some of our at-risk funding to support them with the donation. And then there's occasionally some other fundraisers our kids do to support that too. PHONAC is typically a special education bill for our students that have hearing aid devices, and our teachers need receivers and those types of things so they can communicate. Anything else on that page? I didn't have anything else. Then on the last page, under the SAVE fund, the BL lighting is, we put some new lights in the high school over Christmas break. Jerry's Plumbing for $1,100 is another new water fountain. We've been kind of replacing the water fountains in our buildings one at a time with the new ones. And then Star Energy, that says fuel, but that's not correct. That is a replacement pump motor for our pumps at SAC Elementary bus garage. So, explosion-proof electric motors are expensive, I guess.
They sound like they're expensive.
So that was quite a bit in a short amount of time, but that's what I had highlighted for you. Is there anything else? All right. Well, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes, the financial report, and the bills.
So, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think everyone sitting out here has a report, so Mike, let's start with you. So you had a short report for the board.
I just got to have a couple things here. Our mid-year assessments have started. We're trying to keep up with the literacy laws, and all of our students in K through 4 will be assessed through the FAST. The Department of Ed did have some problems with, this is the first year all of the schools are using their system to keep all the data, and their system went down because there were so many people trying to get on it. So we've seen that before the last couple of years when we were piloting it for them. Now that they had all the schools, they didn't have enough whatever they needed, and it crashed. I mean, it went down, and they were very apologetic about it, but we're now on it, and we're ripping right through it, and we're doing really well. So we'll have all our results. I've asked Mary Ann Peters to let me know if we were to require that 3rd grade summer school next year, what would our numbers look like if we were doing that right now, just so I have an idea what that would be looking like. We are doing an early preschool sign up for people to just call the school, not have our meeting that we regularly have in March, but call the school to let us know numbers. Those numbers are...
I'm going to interrupt, but this is for 4-year-olds.
Yeah, the 4-year-old program, the preschool program.
Yes.
We are just in need of kind of getting a jump on what are our numbers. Our numbers have been declining, and we would really like to know what those numbers are. Now, our numbers are down a little bit in the SAC building, and we think that we have pretty much all of them at 26, and our numbers at Wall Lake are at 9 as of today. There'll be more, but that number is low too. So once we get those initial numbers, that will help us to do some planning for next year. The other thing that I was going to mention to you, I'm going to be meeting with the summer school team that I have and start looking at, so what does summer school look like for us next year? Last year we really focused on first grade and second grade to try and be proactive for this upcoming third grade requirement that's in the literacy law. I went to a meeting, I think Barb was there too. They're still trying to work through all types of different, they have these, the law says this, and the Department of Ed put together these proposals, and they're continuing to change. And it's just very interesting right now. I think the governor's already said he's not going to fund it, so it's going to be the school's responsibility. And to be honest with you, the law is sitting there, and the legislators, I just read something on the Iowa School Board Association yesterday that they're actually looking at the literacy law that they put in effect a few years ago to try and determine what does this all mean. And so there's a lot of things up in the air. So I think we'll be focusing on the proactive piece again with the first and second grade, and we'll wait and see what happens a year from now. So that's kind of the 3 things that I wanted to talk about, unless you have questions for me.
And Mike was talking about the 4-year-old enrollment. He and I spent some time bonding here over what does the 4-year-old look like, what does our current 4-year-old going into kindergarten look like, and transitional kindergarten, and then these openings that have been created because of teacher leadership and compensation. So, so that you know, we're not going to be advertising for those positions either in-house first for transfer or outhouse, outside for a while, and it might be quite a while, because our numbers are so fluid and so close to making decisions about do we need 1 or 2 sections of something, that we're just going to sit tight. So you need to know that we haven't neglected that. This is intentional. Our plan is intentional, and we will find teachers if we need them, but for right now we're just sitting on that. And that would be really because of kids that will be 4 in the preschool program, and then kids that are currently in the 4-year-old program going into kindergarten or transitional kindergarten. Those are all just kind of shaky numbers yet, so we don't want to overhire. So if someone says to you, well, who's going to take Sammy's spot, or who's going to fill in whatever, right now we're just coasting. So, and that's good. We're fine. Thanks,
Thank you, Mike.
Kevin, do you have a
Yep, I got a few
report?
things. Couple things here. We just finished our winter map testing today, or this last week, and so we're dissecting through that data right now. Pam, Russ, and I have been talking to the English teachers, the science teachers, and the math teacher in regards to what those testing results are, and beginning to kind of make plans for that. At our last in-service day, our entire staff got together, and we had 9 teachers as a freshman group, 9 teachers as a sophomore group, 9 teachers represented the junior group, and again, looking at those particular grades and just what is the data telling us, what are the skill areas we need to work with, where are we strong, and so you're just continuing to look at the data and what that map test is telling us. And so we'll continue to work through that this year and continue to make plans for how we can better prepare our kids in regards to the achievement area. And then also, today I had a phone call from TJ Martin. He's the Dean of Distance Learning at Iowa Central Community College, and it was good news. In November, TJ and four 4 other staff members from Iowa Central were in our building, and they met with Barb and I, and it was a kind of an impromptu meeting. I had scheduled it, but forgot I scheduled it, and they showed up, and I'm glad they did, because really the conversation was about community college and dealing with the stigma that community college isn't a beneficial or isn't an effective way to get a good career or stuff like that. But when we were done, TJ asked, "What do you guys need from us?" And Barb and I, for just a moment, thought, and I think both of us at the same time said, we just need colleges out here talking to our kids earlier than junior, senior year. And that started the plan in motion of TJ taking that back to his people at Iowa Central and beginning the process, developing what I call a comprehensive program. And we talked that by the time the 7th and 8th grade, they should be hearing a lot about what is college, what are they thinking about in regards to their careers. It kind of lends itself to what Amanda and the other guidance counselors put together for that career fair. And so TJ told me today that we're going to be getting a flyer in the mail next week, and they have developed a program that can be given to our 8th and 9th graders, and we could probably even throw in some sophomores if they're so inclined, to talk about college. And the emphasis is not, it's about college. This is not going to be a recruitment for Iowa Central Community College. They're just the ones that are going to put them on. Now, will they walk in with a shirt with Iowa Central Community College on? Well, of course they will. But it's not going to be a recruitment for them. It's more to get our younger kids really thinking about college and thinking about skills and grades and all of the things that come into getting a 2-year degree. If you look at, and Barb has talked about this a lot in regards to that skilled labor shortage. And Iowa Central and Iowa Lakes and Western Iowa Tech are all trying to fill that void because Iowa's looking for skilled labor. And there's good jobs out there for that 2-year degree. So we'll be setting up a time, and I told TJ today, I said, plan on us being a school that is going to participate in that particular program. So he said, we have a lot of dates that are open right now. Just please avoid spring break, he said. I said, that's fine. So we'll be getting things set up with Iowa Central to do something like that for our 8th and 9th graders. A couple other things in activities. We're still in the process looking for a head baseball coach, assistant baseball, and assistant softball right now. Telly's got some leads that he's going to follow up on, so we'll keep you guys informed about that. We did receive our football redistricting this last week. It's very similar to last year. It includes Clarinda, us, Carroll Kemper, Red Oak, Shenandoah, South Central Calhoun, Southeast Valley, and then another school that added this year was Underwood. So that's going to be our football districts for next year and the following year then too. So.
SEC moved up.
Yep. That's not a bad district. I mean, we have some road trips, but that's going to happen whatever school you're at right now. So we're going to have some lengthy trips here. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Amanda?
Yep. One of the things that our site visit last year, brought to light was we needed to have a process to take a look at our course enrollment data and really kind of dig into whether it be ethnicity or males versus females. And the males versus females in the class is really where we're able to take a look at the different enrollment. So I did put 2 papers on your desk there. The one I'll talk about first is the actual plan. And I don't need to read it to you, you can certainly read. But really it just says that here's our process for looking at males versus females and any other areas that we would need to look at. But here's how we're going to do it. And then talks about the timetable, who's responsible. So it's really a plan that we can follow every semester. And then a couple of the remedies that we've come up with to take a look at some of those areas that are highlighted on the other sheet that we need to look at males versus females in the classes, and where there's a very much discrepancy, yes, of males versus females or females versus males in a class. One thing we're going to do is late March or early April, before we register for next semester or next school year, is we're going to take a couple hours in the morning and just kind of continue on with what we did at the career fair this fall, but really focus on people in careers that maybe you wouldn't think of. So women in the automotive industry or males in the healthcare field. Some of those things of bringing in professionals who have maybe broken that gender barrier and focus on that. Also, next year in the fall when we have our career fair, we'll tie in some of those things as well. But if you look at the sheet where I just put some of the data, numbers from 2013, and this includes last semester, it doesn't include the semester we're in right now. So I guess technically it should say 15 there. But you can see, especially if you look at the male heavy on the bottom, it's our automotive department and our industrial tech area that are very male heavy. I guess that's no surprise. It's not like we're different than any school, but that's where we need to focus and maybe show the ladies and the guys that aren't involved different careers that they could have in those areas. And then on the top where it says female heavy, I guess I should have made a key on this, but the numbers that I circled, those are actually Iowa Central online courses. So it's not that we don't want males to take those courses, but we're really focused in on the courses that we're teaching here in our building. And it's kind of spread out, but the OCC is our preschool. We don't typically have a lot of males that take that class. And then there's a couple of healthcare courses, and then yearbook and painting. So just kind of really a variety of different courses. One, though, that I think should be mentioned, number 9, the human anatomy. That's maybe a bigger one for us to take a look at, I feel like, because that goes to males in the healthcare industry. So I think that's where we may start, just because, take a look at the healthcare industry. There are males, a lot of them, out there, so we just need to figure out how we can open up their eyes there. So anyway, this is our plan. This is what will be submitted to the DE. It's a working document. If you have some ideas, we're more than happy to take those. We'll also present it to the SIAC and see if they have any ideas for us as well.
Any questions for Amanda? So the non-compliance finding was just that we don't look at that data and that we don't do anything to try to change it. And that's what we're asked to do, is to have some sort of plan to look at the data and then some sort of plan to try to influence that enrollment. If it doesn't influence it, it doesn't. But at least there was an attempt to study it and to make sure that students are informed about kind of those cross-disciplinary fields of choice that they may see as non-traditional, so they don't sign up for them. And honestly, it probably brought out really interesting information. In some cases, exactly what we would have predicted, but in some cases, a bit of a surprise for some courses. So
There's some surprises on there to me.
actually, when I see the anatomy, that surprises me.
Yeah, it does me also.
Yeah. So anyway, a plan, and you'll hear more about the plan as it works itself through. So, thank you. Yeah.
So I'm going to give you just a little update on what we've done with elementary technology. I'm going to give you a little background first. About 5 years ago, the state of Iowa sued Microsoft and won. And there was this huge chunk of money, and it was a 4-year program. And we got the grant, we got all this money, applied at the time a whole lot of mobile labs for all our different buildings and some software and stuff like that. Well, after the 4 years then, the money that wasn't spent then went back into round 2. That I was just really happy that we got it then. So, but we had another chunk of money. So we decided this time, and they told us it had to be for elementary specific. We could send it to wherever we wanted, but we ended up buying 77 iPads for kids. It will also pay for some random software. It will pay for some JMC for next year and a few other things. But we ended up getting 77 iPads for the elementaries and these really cool little cases for them, which are great because they'll really buffer them more than we had before. One thing we did, though, that we didn't do with the iPads that we already had, and we already had 30 iPads in each building in a cart, so these were just an addition to it. But Our Macs, all our Macs in the building are on a system called Casper, Jamf, basically. And it can manage, it can push out all the software, it can update things, we can manage and push out the apps that we need the kids to have, and really makes life a lot easier. But we could do the same thing with these guys. So what's really nice is when the teachers need a new app, they don't have to spend a whole lot of time putting in an Apple ID for each individual iPad. So we've got them all set up so that they go to something called self-service in here, and the Macs all have this too. But they tap on self-service. They tell me about a day or two ahead of time what they want in there. We put it in basically the app bank. They just touch it, install it, they're done. Makes it a lot faster. They don't have to know passwords and memorize all that kind of stuff. We can also do a little quality control so that we know that there's not a whole lot of just little gamey things. It's more educational, stuff like that. So it's really kind of cool. Each classroom, pre-K through 4, got either 3 or 4 iPads depending on their enrollment, and we had slightly different amounts of money per building. So they were either 3 or 4 per classroom. That added on to the, I think each pre-K through 4 already had 4 iPads. So now they're up to 7 or 8 in the lower elementaries, and 3rd and 4th have, I think, 3 or 4. But they also have a whole mobile lab worth of PCs as well. So we're doing pretty good there. So, that's what I have. Any questions?
There's kind of a lot of hoops to go through with money, but again, like Beth said, this last round was because other schools just said, forget it, we're not going to do that. Well, Beth and I had written the original one, which was the pain in the, and this one sort of was too, but it's like, gosh, people didn't use it then, and we need to use it.
Yeah.
So, the nice part about it is this is the result, and in retrospect, it wasn't so much work.
No, and teachers have to put some data in how often they use things and stuff like that. But I found out some schools didn't do it at all last year after they spent their money, and there was no like Microsoft police that came and got them. So we need to start
relax
putting
on that a little bit.
a little bit. Yeah, I was a little scared of that for a while. But this is a 2-year program, so we haven't spent it all, but we've spent most of it. So between this year and next year.
And those are ours. The previous software hardware is ours. It's not like they can say, well, we want all the stuff because you didn't fill out some report. It belongs to the district.
Yeah.
So.
And we buy it and they reimburse it. We send in all the paperwork and stuff. So it's a good deal. The stuff we wouldn't have had beforehand. So. Yeah.
Some of you who have elementary kids may have them say something about what they have access to now. So we just thought it'd be nice if you knew what was going on with that, and that we haven't ignored the elementary, and we will continue not to ignore them, because I think maybe in the February, March meeting we'll propose a plan related to some additional purchase of technology for elementary.
They do talk about it a lot. Yeah, and she does say that they use them in the stuff that they do during the day. I think it kind of breaks it up kind of nice for them.
Well, a lot of kids get they have iPads at home, so they can use the same apps at home, so it just reinforces those reading skills, the math practice, things like that. So. Good. Thanks. Thank you.
A couple, 3 more things. Teacher leadership and compensation update for the month. We had no applicants for the mentor positions. So it's a short report. What will we do? We're not sure, but we'll do something, and when we do, we'll let you know about that piece of it. Monday, we post openings for model teachers. We have 8 positions, and we'll see how that goes. And then I'll just let you know at the February board meeting as we continue to go along with that. One of the things that I have talked with the board president and vice president about is something called career academies. Our superintendent's group meets monthly, and I was central, met with a group of superintendents kind of within our AEA superintendent's group about an academy that they've already established in what's called the North Central Academy Group. It's a group of schools centered around Webster City, Humboldt, Clarion, Goldfield, and then Fort Dodge is part of that group. And what the Iowa legislature and the Iowa Board of Education are really pushing and hoping happens is that career academies, similar to what's called the North Central Career Academy in the Iowa Central area, Iowa Central Community College area, happen across the state of Iowa. Iowa business and industry, particularly manufacturing, the big companies are saying we can't expand. We can't grow because there's not skilled labor. And that skilled labor won't come right out of high school and won't go to work for Blue Bunny as a cooling and refrigeration technician. They have to have some sort of skills that they come with from particularly a community college. So superintendents have been working across the state of Iowa with this Iowa Business and Industry Group, and the community colleges have been now entered as that next piece because they're the education, the post-secondary education group that are really nimble. They're really flexible. So we need wind energy training for people. A year and a half later, there are wind energy programs and people in those programs graduating with degrees. Four-year colleges and universities cannot move like that. They just don't have the capacity to do that. So the community colleges in every state, Iowa included, are there to meet a lot of the workforce needs as they are actually happening. We're never out in front of it, it doesn't seem like, but at least to try to, within a 24-month period, be able to provide skilled labor to something that new that might be in the state as far as skilled development. So in Iowa, every AEA is affiliated with a community college. Our AEA is affiliated with Iowa Central Community College. And that, every community college right now in Iowa has one career academy or more. Most of them have one. Ours is this North Central group. And what it is a group of 8 or 10 schools of varying sizes that have worked with Iowa Central, and Iowa Central was the initiator of this. So Iowa Central is the initiator with us as well, to say we need manufacturing technology, we need biotechnology, we need more business administration. Here are the areas where we need workers. If we can buy a building, and Iowa Central will own it, if we can buy it and renovate it, would your schools be interested in buying seats, kids, time, in a program where they come half a day for a whole year, either their junior year or their senior year, and get 1 year of a 2-year program completed? And it's in a program that you can't offer because you don't have the personnel, you don't have the money, you don't have the lathes and equipment like a manufacturing floor would have. But we'll do that, and we will be given the money. We'll be funded to do this sort of thing. And this has been the trial. Well, it took almost 5 years to find a building. And they bought doesn't matter what it is because I can't think of it right now. They bought a building. The building came up for sale, and in 48 hours, Iowa Central was in the process of putting a bid on it because it was exactly what they needed. They total has spent about $1.25 million on the building. So that's buying the building, it is renovating the building, and then it's equipping the building. So it has only a couple of actual classrooms. It has a biology classroom and a biology lab. They can add chemistry to that if they need to. It has a replication of a manufacturing floor with 10 lathes and all the equipment. I mean, they purchase the equipment and they fund the whole thing because they own it. The schools then, for about $2,200 a seat, send kids to that program, and then you commit to a number of seats. There are actually 5 programs that are offered in that particular site, but the schools that I named are big. They're 3A and they're 4A schools. For instance, Fort Dodge just bought 50 seats just right off the bat. Well, that made it go. What Iowa Central is suggesting is they would like to work with a group of schools in our area as well as a group of schools up by Pokey. In our area, the group would be South Central Calhoun, Prairie Valley and Southeast Webster Grand, which are the Southeast Valley school group, Jefferson, Scranton, and Peyton-Sheridan, or Greene County and Peyton-Sheridan, Manson, Northwest Webster, and us. When we met, they gave us a sheet and just said, it was just telling us what's the distance between all of this combination of schools. Lake City is just about as central as it can be. It's 20 to 25 miles away for everybody. And honestly, when I looked at it and saw it was Lake City and it was 22 miles, I'm thinking, wow, are we lucky that we wouldn't be thinking of 35 or 40 miles would be the closest direction. So that day when we met, they sort of pulled us apart, and our superintendent group those schools that I just named just talked. Were we even interested in the next step or any further conversation? And every school was. Jefferson, Scranton, and Peyton Jourdan do some partial day sharing, and they're not sure they want to be part of our group. They think they can kind of go it alone. They think they have a building and they've got manufacturing in Jefferson, and they feel like they could probably do something. That wouldn't mean that that's a commitment that they now officially, that was just their first comments to us. They weren't really sure. The rest of us as a group of superintendents said, well, we're not going to sign the paper saying that we're buying seats today, but we're in as far as we have to keep talking about this. So February 16th, Iowa Central is doing the legwork on all of this at this point. Iowa Central has arranged for a meeting at Lake City at the hospital in their conference room, and it'll be at 11:30 to 1:30, and I asked the board president and vice president to go just to this initial meeting, and I'm going to pass some things out to you. They'd like to have businesses represented from each school district, if we can find 2 or 3 businesses to come as well. They'll buy their lunch, and they're just talking about this concept of career academies. Iowa has had a task force working for about 4 years about improving career and technical education in Iowa, because we struggle to find instructors in ag, health sciences, industrial tech, FCS, business. I mean, we just struggle to find high-quality instructors, and then you just hope when you find one that you can keep them. And then you hope that you can continue to have enough student enrollment in those courses so that you can keep the programs as well. And this is a very compatible group of schools for us. If you recognize the names, we're talking about part of our conference. It's a group of superintendents, whether this matters or not, that get along, and we converse often about what are you doing about X or how's it going with X. So it feels good to think that might be a group that we could keep working with. There won't be a building built if we ever have a career academy. They will not build buildings, but the foundation at Iowa Central has money to purchase an existing building. And they would take care of renovation, equipment, whatever. The programs that will be offered will be the decision of our group of schools. So they'll suggest to us manufacturing should probably be one of those, or manufacturing, an engineering manufacturing program. But if we say we don't think we have the kids to participate in that kind of a program, then that won't be offered. So it's really governed by the schools and their representation by their superintendents, okay? And the programs that are offered at North Central are there because that was what the student interest was, okay? I would think a biotech program, for instance, would probably be something our group talked about, and that we just kind of on the outside thought we'd have student interest. We also talked about health science, that we can't keep a health science program going here, and even South Central struggles, and they have a hospital. But Lake City has nursing home, it has hospital, it has adult disabled care programs. I mean, it'd be a great place to be able to do clinicals and do work right in the community. So what the North Central schools do is their students all drive to their site. But we'd either decide they can, it doesn't matter what the transportation is. Personally, I prefer we got them on a bus and we transported them there and back. They're treated like a college kid. So they take the credits, the courses, they have access to other kinds of things at Iowa Central that any other college student would have, but they're college credit classes. So they go in the morning and then they come back to their high school in the afternoon. This is the second, every day, yep. It's the second full year that the program at North Central has taken place, and 2 or 3 kids in that program, they have about 120 students. 2 or 3 kids in the program took a course, absolutely did not like it, and there was room for them they changed programs. Then they went right back their second year, their senior year, and now they're in a different strand and they're happy with that one. It would replicate a few of the courses that some schools offer. For instance, one of the programs has a welding class. And of course, right away then, our ag teachers are like, holy cow, so what does that do to the welding class that we currently have? The purpose is not to stop the class in the local school district. It's to align the class that we would have with the welding class that is offered at the Career Academy. Ours would be very close to that already. And so those kids that go into that head to that strand, when welding is offered from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning, they can choose some other electives that are offered at that site. So they'll take another 3-credit class, it just won't be welding, and then it never stops our program, for instance. So then our kids who don't ever go to the academy can still have access to welding class. They would pick up from 13 to 18 credits was the range in credits, but they'd have their first year of a 2-year program completed. The purpose by the legislature to direct kids into the fields that the state of Iowa needs employment in, and then to reduce the cost of expense for kids in terms of student loans and just cost to go to college. Because part of these kids are saying, I don't even know if I'm going to like a biotech field, and I'm going to go spend that money and then find out that I don't. The third piece of that is there are plenty of 4-year grads from colleges and universities of Iowa. In fact, too many. They're not employed. And so in that employment area, what they're really trying to help kids understand is there's some very good paying jobs with good benefit packages with a 2-year degree. And if the state of Iowa can develop career academies, then it also just helps business and industry and the number of jobs in the state of Iowa. So it has some really positive potential, it seems like. We haven't signed anything, we've not committed anything. Ours might have maybe 60 to 80 seats. We'd be smaller, but that's for us to decide. Maybe it has 3 strands, not 5 or 6. So there's nothing yet that feels like we shouldn't still be committed to working with this group of schools. Iowa Central does much of the legwork. They find the instructors. If we have instructors that can teach there, they'll buy our instructors' time. For instance, it's all face-to-face except for one course, and that is an econ elective. They have one econ instructor in the whole Iowa Central campus. They cannot find econ instructors, and so they have to do go-to-meeting for that course. So you don't have they can't send the instructor away from campus to teach these courses. What's happened in the North Central site is that now there's adult interest in taking some courses. So students are there in the mornings, then literally the buildings and equipment weren't used the rest of the day. And they have their first night class that's starting for adults, but they will not mix the adult population with our high school kids. That was an agreement that the superintendents made. But as far as use of the facility, they want it to be used. So now some adults are either going through retraining or initial training. And welding and something else are the 2 night courses that are being offered now. So there's that potential that it could be used by groups other than just high school kids as well. What I have for you is a draft of a letter that the superintendent from South Central wrote, and then we just changed the names and school names on it from our schools, plus Jeff's heart that he wrote it.
Good idea.
And I'm going to just give 2 or 3 to each of you, and if you can think of a business person or just someone in the community that would just come over to Lake City for lunch on the 16th. We'd like to have some representation. Iowa Central really wants to talk to businesses as much as they want to talk to school superintendents, because this takes a lot of support, because they buy equipment, but they also look for donations of kinds of things if they can get them. I mean, they're not relying on that, but they really need the support of everyone within a career academy area. And they also want to know, so what are the needs for employment in this particular geographic area. So I'll just give you a couple of these, and I can give you more if you want them. And there's a phone number and a name that they can call. Just all they have to do is RSVP so they know how many are coming for lunch. We didn't ask all of you because then it's a board meeting. And so for right now, if you just trust your president and vice president to go, that's the direction we'll go with it. So, anyway. How about any questions for me about?
I say keep moving forward.
I do too.
Will they have any of the students that have participated in this prior years at this meeting? I'd be kind of interested to hear a student's perspective that went through it.
I don't know if they will or not. I think they'll have a superintendent or two from North Central.
That have had kids through it.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and maybe even a board member or two. Amanda?
I'm wondering if this was talked about or not by Iowa Central or your superintendents. Will these credits that they're earning from Iowa Central count in the 23 or fewer that students can earn before they have to pay for it themselves?
Well, actually, that came up at the discussion, and so we asked Mike Sherwood, the superintendent from Webster City, and he had a great big grin, and he just said, right now, we're just ignoring that rule, and nobody's doing anything about it, and we have the Iowa Board of Education behind us, so we don't know how we'll get that straightened out. It isn't taken care of yet, but they're exceeding the 23 credits by some kids and just saying that's just what we're doing. And he was not explaining much about it, but personally, knowing him, he wouldn't participate in it if he didn't feel like it's not going to be a problem. Because I don't think he'd ever try to get a kid in a position where some of those credits don't count. So, yeah, I just kind of took it that it's just like, this is a non-issue with us. So, DE and legislature and Iowa Board of Education want this, then you're going to have to change X to do that. So, okay. Last thing, update Arweva, partial day sharing. Last week I got an email from the superintendent from Arweva, and you may have already seen it in the Carroll newspaper if you get the Carroll paper. Arweva's board met with the Carroll board, and then Arweva's board met with the Denison board. And at their most recent board meeting last week, Arweva decided to kind of lay out an offer to all the neighboring districts. So then that would include not only Carroll and Denison, but IKM Manning and us. They're interested in sharing their freshmen and sophomores 3 periods a day. And that would be for, they would provide English, math, and social studies in the core. They need science from the district they sent students to, and then electives, which would be career and technical classes. And then for juniors and seniors, it would be 5 or 6 periods a day. They would take literally everything from the school that they go to, because they would not be able to offer them. They might be able to offer them upper level English, but they would need science, social studies, and math from that district. As well as CTE classes. They'd like a 4-year agreement. The first year was a 75% pay of per pupil cost, and the other 2 years would be 80%. John and I did a short conference call with the superintendent just to ask some questions. If you read the Carroll paper, it sounds very much like they're headed to Carroll, more than likely. We told him we'd be interested. I'd met with Kevin and with Amanda to say, could we manage that? It's 64 kids total. And they bus them here in the mornings and then bus freshmen, sophomores back if they were coming here, and then come back and pick up their juniors, seniors. So they have a board meeting February 10th, and they'll make a decision at that time. So, I don't know what to tell you other than that's what we know right now.
Yeah, it's kind of on our hands, but I think Barb did a really good job at the meeting that we had, laying out what we have to offer, and I think we have a lot to offer, obviously, but we're talking about a couple of pretty good-sized school districts. So.
Sure. Well, and I think in the article I talked about the longevity. Well, those are 3A schools. They have more kids, and the number of college credit courses and electives they can offer. Well, they're bigger and they have more. I mean, there's not a single thing we can do about that. So they also, in the article, one of the board members said it would be interesting to see how many kids, wherever we go, if we lose some kids to open enrollment. And that's a potential, but that always is.
Yes.
We knew that when SAC and Walleye Government came together, that was always a worry that you have about what about those fringes and what do people decide to do. But at any rate, they've been very public with that information, and that's what we know at this point. So by our next board meeting, we'll at least know from having read it in the paper or heard from them what they're going to do. So that was way more report than you expected. I'm done with reports.
All right, looks like we have no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business, which are the continuation of our job descriptions.
Yeah, you have job descriptions in front of you, and one of the questions that you might have on those job descriptions are a little bit different in the way we describe the terms of employment. But the way we described it is the way it actually works in our district. So for instance, our activity director really is a 12-month employee in terms of what his job duties are. They last all year round. There are some breaks in there, obviously, when we don't, not very big ones. But literally, our activity schedule is 12 months a year, and so his work is 12 months. So that describes what his work is. If you move to the next job, and it's school counselors, we hire school counselors by a number of days. And those days differ just based on what the job responsibilities are. Okay, so that would be their current job contracts. When you get to the, I'm scanning through this pretty quickly, the director of technology, who is Beth, she has a 200-day contract, so that's what's listed here. And the school nurse has what we call a school year contract. It's 170 days of student time, and then there may be just a few additional days here or there, like a before or an after school, depending on what we might need her for. But the descriptions are there because they accurately describe what they do and what their contracts say for us. So that might have looked odd to you because they look different than what a teacher contract or a custodian contract might look like. Okay. All of these employees have seen these job descriptions, so these are not surprises. They've been edited. There were quite a few edits in all of them, or several edits in them. So I would recommend approval of that group of job descriptions, please.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
I got a question about one of them, not that I wouldn't vote aye for them, but the nurse. Number 14 says, teach health and education program concerning 5th grade girls. Do we do anything for boys?
Mike, do we do anything for boys in 5th grade?
What grade?
5th grade?
Where the nurse talks to the girls in 5th grade about,
I think, I'm pretty sure they do, but she doesn't.
But she doesn't do it.
She
So it would be
doesn't do
somebody else, a male that would be that?
Yeah.
I want to say that it's our PE teacher.
It's been PE teacher, it's been AD, it's been school liaison.
As I say, I think Kaylin Todd
Whoever's on
done
that
it.
school.
So the only reason it's girls on here is because our nurse is a woman.
Would it be better stated that they organize the education for the 5th grade girls and, are assigned appropriate? Because that does sound kind of biased one way or the other. Because you're going to talk to multiple positions. You know what I mean? If you did have a male, you would have the male teach and find somebody else to teach.
It doesn't necessarily concern me, I just didn't know the answer.
I would imagine what we would do would be come back to the job description and we change it as we're hiring a male nurse and we change that, whatever. Good question.
Did read.
I actually did.
Tell me after the last one.
I needed
Quick.
to.
Yes,
I needed
quicker
to
than
go
the
to
others.
sleep, but-
Yeah.
You voted.
Before the question.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Okay, second item, discuss and approve early retirements. For Donna and Susan.
We've got some paperwork included in your packet. We have an early retirement policy for licensed staff, and Donna, Colby, and Susan Crabb meet the requirements and have completed all the necessary paperwork. And so what this particular item on the agenda is to approve the recommendation for their early retirement, not for their resignation. That comes later.
I would make a motion that we accept both applications for early retirement. And we need to make sure that we tell both of those teachers thank you.
Assuming maybe we will hopefully do something later.
You will.
Yes, there's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Modified allowable growth. John, are you doing?
You want to tell them about the program and then I'll do the budget?
Sure. We have two parts to our program. We have our Flex Ed Center, which is one piece of the program, and it would really be to meet the needs of kids who really are on the verge of dropping out and or have almost dropped out, and then we've been able to counsel them back to school, and then they're in and out sometimes. So it's the kids kind of on that really far end of just trying to work with them to get course completion and meet graduation requirements and not become dropouts. Then the second piece of the program is what we just call our at-risk program. And it ranges from kids that are close to that flex ed in terms of they need course recovery. They don't need as many courses recovered because they failed, and they're not as far behind in their credits. So they're closer to staying on track with their peers and closer to staying on track for graduation with their peers. That's one of the ways that we would measure that. All the way down to things as simple as math and reading interventions for primary, elementary kids, middle school, high school kids. So there's this range of services from nearly that kid that's just on that edge of dropout all the way to the kindergartner who needs 2 20-minute interventions a week for math, potentially. So the two pieces, again, are Flex Ed for our most high-need kids, and then at-risk is everything else, and that would include counselors as part of our budget. It's our school liaison officer, it's some of our classroom teachers, and John will talk to you about the money part of this. This is not new. We have a new template that we have to file and a new report form, but there's nothing new in this other than the fact that the money changes a little every year depending on salaries. So John will talk to you about the budget then.
There's 3 pages in your packet about the budget. The first page is it's kind of like a spreadsheet. The far right column is what we're talking about tonight. It's fiscal year 17. The prior columns are what we've done in the last couple years. So if you go bottom right of that spreadsheet, there's $424,722 that we think we need to fund our at-risk program for dropout prevention. So then you flip to the next page. We start out on line 1 with that $424,000. And we go down to line 5 for the $29,000 is our at-risk funding through the state. Leaves us $395,000 that we still need on line 9. Line 10 is the 25% that we have to fund locally through our regular program. Shouldn't say locally because we fund a lot of this locally, but that's our portion of our regular program. Leaves on line 11 $296,350 that we would like for this program. You go look at cost per pupil in our certified enrollment. Gives you on line 14 the maximum allowable by state law is $284,000. So we're at the max is what that whole thing gets at, and actually we're over it a little bit, but only by $12,000. So my recommendation to the board, or our recommendation, would be that you approve the modified allowable growth application for $284,715, and we'll come real close to funding the entire program, as we have in the past. And then that last page is just a breakdown for you that it's kind of how Barb and I build the budget. These are the people that are involved in our program and at what percentage. So, and the only thing that's in this budget that is not salary or benefits is a program called Odyssey where it's $14,500 or $250 or something this year. Barb knows more about that than I do, but it's an online course recovery type thing.
Very important, I think, for these kids.
It is, and our instructors that are on that list will tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'll try to answer any questions you have, but if you would make the motion to approve the modified allowable growth in the amount of $284,715, that's what I would need for a motion. And then when we do the budget in March or April, you'll see all these numbers come back again from that budget. That's when you actually approve the tax rate. Now, this comes out to 78 cents per thousand on our taxes. Last year it was 80 cents per thousand.
So it doesn't add 78 cents?
No, it's right in to where we were a year ago, so.
I'd make that motion.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to approve the $284,715. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, let's see, moving on to personnel and resignations.
We have 3 resignations that I would ask you, that I recommend that you approve. Ben's resignation for Head baseball coach. Donna Colby as K-6 vocal music, and Susan Crabb as a middle school teacher.
So moved.
Okay, do we want to approve these separately with him? Or will you just abstain from all three? Okay. Okay,
Yeah, I'll second that.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And again, make sure that the things happen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Personally,
Ben.
everyone's like Ben sitting here, I've heard a lot of good things about him as a baseball coach, and
Well, I guess I'll tell you when things in time are slowed down a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'll do it again in 3 or 4 years.
Is that when you're 40 or 50?
That's only 10 years. So,
50 or 40?
40, yeah. I feel like 50.
With those positions, just so you know, obviously with Ben's position, we started to advertise once we got the resignation, so, or at least to post it for our in-house publication. Donna Colby's position will be replaced, and Susan Krebs will, and it may not be the same teaching assignment in the middle school, but we will need to replace that position. So those I can tell you right now, different than what Mike and I were sharing with you about positions, these we will replace. So
When do we begin advertising?
probably soon, and with the middle school position, Denny and I just need to sit down and kind of work through. We have a large group of 4th graders coming to middle school. So we currently have 3 sections of every grade in middle school, 3 of 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. We'll continue with 3 sections of 6th, 7th, 8th, but we'll have 4 sections of 5th grade next year because that class has 83 kids or something like that. So what we need to look at is what she currently taught and then how it fits into this 4th section that we'll have at the middle school. So it could be that we rehire for Susan and additionally add another teacher. But that means that that changes what happens with the elementary too, because those kids have moved out of elementary. So, but again, we're just trying to keep that package as close to the same number of employees on the license side as we can. So thank you for those, and we'll make sure we get thank yous to those people.
Okay, so new contracts?
Yep. I recommend Jody McAndrew, who's a recent BEU grad in elementary education. She actually did her general ed student teaching in Sammy's classroom and our elementary. She'll be an elementary math interventionist. She'll work with Mary Ann Peters, who now does elementary math intervention, but she does it in both buildings, and it's spread way too thin to be effective. So we'll add that position, and she and Mary Ann will work together then to serve both of the buildings. And then the second recommendation is for an assistant speech coach. Megan's already been working in that position, assisting. I should say about Jody. Jody will start after your approval, but she'll start on Monday at the Sac Elementary building. So.
Any other questions, or take a motion to approve the 2 new contracts for Jody and Megan? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Just so you know, the assistant speech is $910, and we'll take Jody, she'll be BA1, and we'll prorate her into 74 or 5 days of school left, plus our in-service days, so we'll get that prorated out.
That speech is $10
And,
I wouldn't do it for 3 times that.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I think we need to set our next meeting
Oh.
time. Before we do that, we have to make sure we talked about 5:30 here in Lakeview again on Monday the 22nd, if that works for everybody.
Yeah.
5:30, that works with the, okay.
couple things on that. We need a group picture if we get all 5 of us here for the yearbook. So. we
Us,
can-
and us means
You five, not.
you, guys, yeah. I just want to be clear when he said us.
Our budget is, we have to have a budget hearing and budget approved by April 15th. I think I've got 99% of the budget done. This stuff came out earlier in January, so I went ahead and went through it. Do a lot of, what we've done in the past for Ben and Jackie is I've brought it to a February, March meeting, kind of review it, talk about a few things, and then we maybe have the hearing the next month. We can do that in February, if you're comfortable with that. If you want to come in and meet and visit and go over it more in depth, then we would go to board meeting and I'd be more than happy to do that, you know, in groups of 1 or 2. I'm open to anything, I just, it's kind of hoping maybe we'd even do it in March and get it out of the way. before it- So I can bring it to the February meeting, and if that's not in-depth enough, then we can just schedule something for next week to go through it with you guys. All right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Great.
We haven't started negotiations yet, so we are missing, and we're not reporting because we're not doing anything yet.
Has anybody around the area started yet?
No.
Carol was on the radio when I got here, they were talking about bus
They're
drivers.
they're classified, yeah. Like bus drivers and associates, and,
Yeah.
yeah, they offered them a 185 or 165.
Six, 1.6.
And then, we'll get our final insurance rates in the middle of February, but we got a phone call today that it's going to be about 10%.
That's better than I heard.
I guess it was we have a motion. So we got everything set, anything else for agenda items?
Nope, that'll do it.
Otherwise, we do a motion.
Probably negotiation.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.